Oh boy, this movie is a stinker. A certified stinker. And I'm only saying that as the fan of the original game this movie is based on. On the surface, it's not that bad of a movie. I mean, it does kind of follow the plot of the Silent Hill 2 movie, but God, even as I'm saying that, I'm dying a little bit on the inside. This is bad. Like, as a fan of the game, like, I would just have to say that watching this movie was very, very painful. And that's coming as a surprise. After watching the movie, I learned that the movie is made by the same director that directed the 2006 Silent Hill movie, which it's been a while since I watched that movie, and I remember being scared. That's not an emotion I felt watching this movie. You know, fear, the thing you're supposed to feel when watching a horror movie. Yup, not in this movie. And that's not because I've grown older and jaded over time and that same things don't scare me anymore. No, this movie is just bad at handling monsters. For instance, the image that you're seeing on your computer or mobile right now. This monster just pops up just like this. There is no build up. James is wandering around this creepy town, finds a hobo, runs away, and then the hobo is then thereafter murdered by this monster. And there was not a slow build up. The hobo looks up and you see this shot. This monster, I searched online, is called Lying Figure, is just standing there. I know it's contrary to its name, but believe me. And not only did they ruin this monster, you will notice that the monster's feet are flat on the ground. That's not how it's supposed to be. This monster is supposed to be wearing high heels. It's supposed to represent James's suppressed sexuality while his wife was sick. That's very sick thing to say, but that's what this game is all about. Sick things that you think about, feel, and you're repressing while your wife is sick. That's what this is all about. So watching this movie felt like the director had a list and bullet points of things that he had to go through to stitch this movie together, and he was given this bullet point of this monster and he decided to redesign it without even understanding what the purpose of this monster was or what this monster was even supposed to represent. That's the theme with most of this whole movie. Not only did they ruin Lying Figure, they also ruined my favorite monster from the second game, which is this one. It's called Mannequin, and this is just two lower female bodies that are just stuck on top of one another. And it's a very simple idea, but believe me, you and I, man, this is very scary. At least in the game, it hides in plain sight. It hides in plain sight. You don't think anything about it and it just jumps at you. I know it's not much to look at, but definitely one of my favorite monsters in the game. And they just turned it into something like a spider-esque monster that looked horrible. I couldn't find the exact image online from that movie. I don't think a lot of people were taking a lot of screenshots from that movie, but it looked something like this. I know that this monster, even in the game, sometimes acts like a spider, and I quote, acts like a spider, but it is not. That's the beauty. It's a very simple monster design. Not only did they ruin Mannequin, they also ruined one of the OG monsters in this game, and that is Pyramid Head. I mean, I get it. You're making a movie. You have limited time. You can't focus on these, monsters that are, basically sidelined grunt monsters. But Pyramid Head is supposed to be the main big bad guy of the game. How do you mess him up? How? The build up to Pyramid Head was somewhat better than the other monsters in this game, but he is immediately ruined. In the first shot, they just reveal that Pyramid Head is actually James. They just immediately do that. Why would you do that? So let me just lay it out again in case you aren't understanding the words I'm speaking. The first time Pyramid Head shows up, you're supposed to at least have some kind of mystery around him. You're supposed to let the audience wonder what this behemoth of a machine or a monster is. Let there be some mystery. There is fear in the unknown, but no. They just have to be very quirky and artsy about this movie and just reveal in literally the first moment he shows up that nope, it's actually James. And then they do it again. The second time he shows up, they zoom in on this small hole in his mask and zoom in on that to show that, hey, it's James Sunderland underneath the mask. It's actually James. Look how artsy fartsy we are. But no, you are not artsy, you are only fartsy because I can smell it. And then they do it again, literally a second later, with James in his home painting furiously his own portrait for some reason. And then he gets angry and starts painting a pyramid over his head. God damn it, I'm done. Why? Why do you have to ruin everything that's good? This game is good. Why were you sitting there and thought, I should corrupt this thing? In fact, corruption is a very good metaphor. There exists a very good game, and then the sirens starts to blare and the director comes out and ruins this perfectly good thing. Speaking of sirens, it's actually one of my scariest fears, at least from the first Silent Hill movie that this director made in 2006. The sirens in that movie are very loud, and the moment I hear them, you're filled with fear. When you hear those same sirens in this movie, they're almost like part of the background. They are not this oppressive sound that takes over you. You have to like really stretch the strength of your ears to even hear them. They're supposed to be one of the scariest parts of this movie, or at least even in the first 2006 version of the movie, they're very scary sounds, and you just get rid of them, or at least push them in the background. I really don't know what happened with the director of this movie because he did directed a 2006 movie and that was actually a good one. And surprise, surprise, Pyramid Head in that movie is very, very intimidating. Like he is a force of nature. You cannot fight him. That's the way he is in the movie. Like you can fight every monster except for him because you can't do anything about him. He just exists and he will keep chasing you. And since we're talking about Pyramid Head, I think the reveal, if you even want to call it that, actually I'm wrong, that's my mistake. Reveal is something that's supposed to be a mystery and then you surprise everyone by revealing something that the audience didn't knew. This was never a mystery, so yeah, whatever. Depicting that Pyramid Head is actually James, I think is wrong. I think everyone will have their own interpretation after playing the Silent Hill 2 game, but I never thought that Pyramid Head was James. I think Pyramid Head was a part of James's subconscious being turned alive by the town to torture him endlessly. So, no, Pyramid Head is not James. It's a small part of James's imagination or consciousness that's been turned alive by this mysterious town to torture James. And that's what James wants. James wants to be tortured for the things that he's done. That's what Pyramid Head is supposed to represent. Again, everyone will have their own interpretation after playing the game, but that's what I thought. And seeing that this movie's director interpreted this whole thing as James literally being Pyramid Head, I just thought that was cringe. And there were so many moments from the game that they tried to shove in this game. And I'm thinking about that one scene with the fire where James is standing next to this lady over here. And I might be remembering it wrong, but in the game, that fiery scene was supposed to be this lady's hell. That's how she saw the world, burning. That's how she lived. And I don't think that in that scene, James could see fire because that was not his world. That was hers. So showing that fiery hellscape scene in this movie didn't make any sense whatsoever. In fact, they ended up using that whole scene in a completely different context rather than it being a hellscape for this lady. It actually ended up, being part of James's hell, which makes no sense whatsoever. And speaking of the side characters, they barely show up at all. They try to do some justice to this lady by giving her some screen time, and I can appreciate that. But there was another side character, that fat guy, I don't remember his name, but he shows up in this movie as well for like 20 seconds and he just disappears. If you don't have the time, and I'm not blaming you, you're making a movie, you have budget constraints, you have time constraints. Why would you even introduce him if you don't have any plans to explore his character further? Again, this movie is very bad, and if you haven't played the original game, you may watch this movie and think it's alright. You're not going to think that it's the worst thing in the world, but if you are ever planning to explore the story of Silent Hill, just play the remake of the second game that just came out, I think 1 or 2 years ago. That is a goddamn masterpiece. And it's a modern game too. So even if you're not a gamer, you are probably going to have a good time playing that game because you can just play that on a easy mode. So yeah, I think playing the game would be the best way to experience the story of Silent Hill. So yeah, those are all my thoughts about this horrible adaptation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, it's time for a goodbye.